you can see what the changing customer attitudes and behaviors are, then you can safely navigate. That's what you need to keep your eye on. Yes. Well, I think the first thing to say, I think there are two things to say about uncertainty. Firstly, I think it's important we establish that it isn't just a passing phase. I think a lot of people post-COVID thought we're going to have this slightly uncertain time, but it's going to settle down soon. I think the issue is actually it's not going to settle down soon. This is the new normal, as the cliche goes. You know, the world's now so interconnected that whatever happens, whether it's in Wall Street or Wuhan, will actually quickly impact the rest of the world. You know, new technologies like AI and new geopolitical situations like we're seeing across the globe right now mean that actually this kind of sense of volatility and unpredictability is now going to continue, and if anything, it's going to grow bigger and bigger. And in fact, there's we've all been kind of living through this idea of VUCA, you know, volatile, uncertain, complex, ambiguous, and that's what the world's supposed to be like. Well, the thing is, we've actually now got an analyst saying, you know what, that's not volatile enough. What we actually going to be living through now is what he calls a BANI world, which is brittle, that means it could fall apart at any time, anxious, because that's what we all are, non-linear, so 2 and 2 won't equal 4, it could equal 10, and, my favourite, incomprehensible. The I of BANI is incomprehensible. So you know you're in trouble if actually you're using a term that includes the word incomprehensible. So whatever people are hoping for, this idea of uncertainty is definitely here for at least the next 10 years, I think, looking at all the different factors that are in play across the globe. But the second thing to say about uncertainty is that it's not something to be afraid of. Actually, volatility and unpredictability can actually provide more opportunities for growth and for competitive advantage than actually a kind of a calm situation can. You know, uncertainty and opportunity, I'd say, are really two sides of the same coin. You know, it offers more of these types of opportunities. You know, you look at stock market traders, very often they'll make most money in a volatile period. If you look at some of the biggest companies that are around right now, they started in a recession, whether that was Salesforce or Facebook. You know, Google went public just after the dot-com bubble burst. So, you know, it is actually a great opportunity. So we mustn't be afraid of uncertainty. I think, how do you take advantage of uncertainty? I think that's it. The Boston Consulting Group talk about getting an uncertainty advantage. I think it's a nice phrase. And there are quite a few ways to do that. But I think the key thing here is to kind of adapt the serenity prayer, as they call it. You know, determine what you can know about tomorrow, be ready for what you can't, and have the wisdom to know the difference. You know, so there are certain things that we can know about tomorrow, no matter how unpredictable it is. So how do you take advantage of uncertainty? Boston Consulting Group talks about gaining a uncertainty advantage. And I think that's a nice way of putting it. There are ways to do this. If you can, you know, if everybody is in the same boat and nobody's sure what's going to happen in terms of predictability, the people who can do it a bit better than the other people are the ones who are going to thrive. So you can gain that uncertainty advantage by being just a bit smarter and a bit more in the know. So I like to adopt the serenity prayer for that. You know, determine what you can know about tomorrow, be ready for what you can't, and have the wisdom to know the difference. So there are certain things you can know. You know, so it's important that every company, whether you're a major company, you've got a department devoted to this, or whether you're just a startup and it's just you as a business owner in your spare time, whoever it is doing it, you need to try and think ahead. You need to think about what the future might hold. So think to yourself, for instance, if the world is going to be uncertain, how might customers feel in an uncertain world? And so, you know, they might feel unsure. Are they likely to spend large amounts of money, or actually do you need to help them deal with things like subscriptions rather than big payouts? So thinking about what the future might hold, there are things you can determine. So I'd stick with that, make sure that you're forecasting for what you can. The other thing is, in terms of what you can't know, which is a lot more, you need to adapt your company to that. You need to create culture that's a kind of change culture that's comfortable with change, and you need to create a new reporting structure, a more team-based structure. And I do a whole talk on how to make your company much more future-proof, how to create a more agile, more resilient company. I think there's two ways that you can apply this framework, really. If you're facing an unpredictable world, you need to be sure that when things do change, that you can change with them, that you can pivot towards that. So on the one hand, you have to put things in place that will enable you to anticipate what some of those are. So you need to be forecasting what's going ahead. You need to make sure that all of your employees are thinking about the future. But you also need to create a structure within the enterprise that is ready for change, that can change quickly if necessary. So if you do spot an opportunity, if you do see a new consumer need based on something that's changed radically, then you can adapt towards that. You're ready to adapt. You've got to be like one of these preppers. You've got to be prepared and ready, or like a scout, be prepared. Make sure that whatever comes, your system can deal with it. And there are ways to do that, very specific ways. So you need to have a much more dynamic management system. You need to have a system that's ready for anything that changes, and keep changing that as you go. You need to ensure that your culture is ready for change, and that people are actually rewarded for being able to change. You need to have a much shorter reporting structure, a much less complex one, so that if decisions need to be made quickly, they can be made quickly. You need to create perhaps a more autonomous teams-based structure. So, and I think actually, if you look at a lot of the technology that's around now, artificial intelligence and so on, there are myriad ways to use that to be able to create this much more agile organization. I'd say innovation really is at the heart of how you pull growth out of uncertainty, because it's a shame. Innovation as a word has slightly fallen out of favour a bit. We've got a few favoured words now, like agile and like resilient. But actually, innovation really is the heart of it, because innovation, in effect, is about identifying customers' new needs and then satisfying them in the most appealing way possible. And actually, that's really what I'm talking about when I'm saying you need to be agile, you need to be ready for these opportunities. Because actually, in the more volatile world that we're going into, the opportunities are much more frequent. Consumer needs are more likely to change quickly, and your competitors may not be ready for them. So if you can identify these new needs and create products that are based upon them, then you will have a competitive advantage against, across your sector. I like to see, in this kind of unpredictable world, it is like this kind of ocean that we're navigating that we've never navigated before. And I like to see the customer and customer behaviors and attitudes as kind of like the North Star. If you can see what the changing customer attitudes and behaviors are, then you can safely navigate. That's what you need to keep your eye on. Yes, be aware of other trends, of economic trends and technological trends, but your company, you need to know who your customer is and follow how they're changing over this time, and how can you satisfy all their new needs.